Did anyone request a Prodigal Son meets Supernatural crossover? Well, that is what this episode was, at least for me. We start with Martin in Claremont thinking about Malcolm. At the Whitley mansion, Jessica blocks Malcolm from leaving, asking him why he hasn't been to his therapist in months. And Malcolm, why haven't you been to your therapist, dear? That is like the surefire way to make your mother suspicious of what you get up to. Malcolm receives a call from Dad, and all Dad wants to do is talk. Allow Malcolm to unburden himself from the guilt of what he did for Ainsley. Ainsley, on the other hand, does not remember anything, even which knife she used to kill Endicott. Malcolm and Ainsley join Jessica for breakfast, and Malcolm asks about a certain lieutenant, and Ainsley asks if Gil lets Jessica wear his turtlenecks. And always the important question, Saints. Gil calls about a case, and we cut to the outside of the crime scene. JT is waiting there for Malcolm, and Malcolm asks if he's okay. And this case would definitely fit right up there with the kind of hijinks the Winchesters would get up to if the network actually allowed the show to breathe. Let's not get into that. Malcolm immediately deduces that the priest that was killed performed exorcisms. There is an Aramaic symbol drawn from the victim's blood, Abaddon, reminding me immediately of Abaddon from Supernatural. But this review isn't about Supernatural, because if it was, I'd be swearing like a sailor. No, wait, worse than a sailor, because that ending... I won't get into it. I promise I won't get into it. Back to Prodigal Son. There is restoration work going on at the church, and they talk to the guy doing the restoring. They talk to a bishop, and Malcolm is going at it very bluntly. But then again, that is the Malcolm Bright way of getting information, just asking it. He then goes to visit Dad, and Martin is strung up to a pole like a tether wall, which is funny somehow. Martin calls in an expert, Farrier Pete, who killed a bunch of people, but when has that stopped Malcolm from taking advice from serial killers? He tells Malcolm that exorcisms can't be performed without the permission of a physician, which leads JT and Malcolm to the house of one creepy guy called Norman. And yes, show, I see what you did there with the Norman and Mother. Admittedly, the scenes were very creepy and the kind you'd see in a horror show, not in a police procedural. Malcolm, of course, has to put himself in the situation in order to get a psychoanalysis of this guy. Props to the actor for the creepy smile and the even creepier crawling. Back at the station, Gil chastises Malcolm for, well, being Malcolm. Malcolm tells him and Danny that despite Norman's confession, he could not have killed the priest. We cut to Jessica helping Ainsley move back to her apartment. Ainsley has done some snooping of her own and asks Jessica to at least call Gil. We cut to Malcolm talking to Sister Agnes, and she tells him about how guilt-ridden he is, and then Sister Agnes turns into Ainsley, who keeps telling Malcolm to confess for what he did. Turns out it was just a dream. Danny is standing over Malcolm wearing a vest, since his dreams are always epic. Okay, I laughed a bit at that, but in retrospect, that is just sad. Gil is talking to JT about whether he wants to pursue this thing with the other cop. JT does not. I get why he would do that. But you gotta stand up to this guy, man. This is the only way bullies learn. We cut to Danny dropping Malcolm off at his apartment, and there is a giant painting for some biblical stuff. I don't know, don't ask me, but apparently it's a Goya and that means something. But the looks they shared when Malcolm called Goya a romantic, oh my god, I'm squealing in shipping. Malcolm asks how she's been, and Danny tells him. They talk for a while, and that leads Malcolm to realize that the lead in the paint at the church would cause the symptoms. They head to the church, the cops head to look for something that was making noise, and we have Malcolm left with the restorer and the bishop. It is at this point you know that Sister Agnes is not the killer, simply by the fact that Malcolm is not in the same room as her to do something crazy. And as predicted, the killer is actually the restorer guy who starts hallucinating. Malcolm tells the bishop to leave and close the door behind him. With Mr. David on speed dial, he talks to Martin and Farrier, I can't pronounce his name right, for some reason. Anyway, Malcolm talks to Martin and Freyr about how to deal with this particular predicament. They talk him through an exorcism, which is normal by the Malcolm Bright standard. It seems that the exorcism has worked, but then Mr. Shaw tries to jump scare him and gets hit with a candlestick. Angry Gil can be scary Gil as he talks on the phone about what happened with JT. It seems that they're going to be stretching the storyline for more of the season than I originally expected. How well they executed remains to be seen. Gil goes to meet Jessica. He thought that they were heading somewhere, and oh my god, my heart can't take this. Jessica saving Gil again? This one is going to hurt so much. Especially given that Martin is at the Whitley mansion next episode. Malcolm goes to visit Martin and confesses to Martin being a part of him, and if he can identify that part of him, then he can lock it up and leave it, and by extension, Martin behind. He is really in for a surprise next episode. Predictions for the next episode. I think that the scene of Martin growing, "Honey, I'm home," is actually at the very end of the episode. And that is a Carter review of Prodigal Son Season 2, Episode 2. I'll see you next time. Sending love. Toodles.